Hey everybody, welcome to DadsDen of Pop Culture. In 1975, Saturday morning cartoons in the United States went ape with the premiere of Return to the Planet of the Apes. The show was on NBC, started September 6, 1975. It was in the 11 a.m. time slot, and original episodes ran through November 29th, 1975. Now, sadly, only 13 episodes were produced, and I say sadly for a good reason, which we'll get to later on. The show was produced by DePatie Freleng Enterprises, in association, of course, with 20th Century Fox Television. It was developed for television by David H. DePatie and Friz Freleng, the Academy Award-winning Looney Tunes director. Doug Wildey, the co-creator of Johnny Quest, took kind of major, creative control, though, as supervising director, associate producer, and storyboard director. Wildey's influence on the show is very apparent. It has a distinct, frankly, Johnny Quest kind of feel to it in the way characters move, in the way vehicles move, and sort of the way that they look. And these design elements really help bolster what is really a very limited animation show. In fact, the blonde astronaut in it kind of resembles Race Bannon just a little bit. Now, the backgrounds and staging have this strong kind of comic book feel to them in terms of color, in terms of staging, detailed shaded kind of illustrations. And this was a must for Wildey, who knew it would really help improve the look of the show. The overall visuals and design are frequently quite artistic, especially in the opening, which shows numerous still images and very, very limited animation elements. It's kind of like Saturday morning cartoons' answer to Saul Bass. Now, we can go through a few of these images. We see, you have the ape, and then those little things break up. These two panels slide in, that they slide back. We get images like this. It's really quite impressive. And some of these are probably, just some of the work that was done for designing the show, but they kind of repurposed it for the opening. And these images fly by very, very quickly with the music going. So you get an idea of what you're in for. I get the feeling this was maybe a kind of a low budget production, and they had to be very creative and clever in what they did with it. Now, the series functions as a partial retelling of the original Planet of the Apes films. In this one, you get 3 astronauts, 2 men and a woman. They fly through a time warp and wind up thousands of years into the future on an Earth now dominated by intelligent apes, so nothing really new there. You do get a new set of astronauts, though. Bill Hudson, voiced by Richard Blackburn and Tom Williams. Jeff Allen, voiced by Austin Stoker, who played Mr. McDonald in the movie The Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and Judy Franklin, voiced by Claudette Nevins. Now, Hudson, upon being captured by the apes and delivered to Cornelius, who is voiced by Henry Corden at one point, but I think mostly Edwin Mills, and Zira, voiced by Philippa Harris. He is nicknamed Blue Eyes by Zira, kind of reminiscent of her nicknaming Taylor Bright Eyes in the original Planet of the Apes movie. So you see there's little things that kind of move between the two. The cartoon blends elements of the first 2 live-action films in particular in kind of interesting ways, as well as aspects of the 1974 Planet of the Apes live-action television series. It also has some strong elements of Pierre Boulle's original novel, in that the apes have roughly current-day technology and clothing, though the main characters still wear clothing inspired by the original movie. So you can see just a lot of influences working in here, but you do get stuff like this reporter with the press tab in his hat, etc. And this dude isn't important, but that giant mustache cracked me up, so he had to be in the video. But you do get apes with mustaches and facial hair. I'm not really sure how that works, but just, hey, look, it's the future. So, right. Now, although the series is short and the animation is limited, the series has some very interesting premises. Early episodes clearly establish the aggressive intentions of General Urko, voiced by Henry Corden, and the guerrilla faction in ape politics. So you get political intrigue in what is essentially a kid's cartoon. We also have the so-called humanoids. They call them humanoids instead of just humans. They're the primitive folks who seemingly cannot speak, although a slightly modified version of Nova does learn a few words, so they can speak a little bit, but they really don't think things through particularly well. And I think the term humanoids is used to sort of suggest that they aren't truly human, although they look like us, because what makes us human is our ability to think, which is something that they lack. You get a third faction as the Underdwellers, who are reminiscent but distinct from the mutants in Beneath the Planet of the Apes. They dress in long robes and seem to have strangely colored skin. They always look, it's not like them in Shadow. That's what they always look like. Some of them have supernatural powers. The Underdwellers at one point sort of steal Judy. Well, she's kind of, it's a kid's cartoon, but she's kind of left for dead in the Desert Crossing in the first episode because she just can't go on and wants the other two to survive. But they find her again, having been taken by the Underdwellers, who look at her as sort of a goddess who was, prophesied who would return to save them. And she remains with the Underdwellers for a while willingly, but eventually returns to the surface with her fellow Americans. What really got me with this version of Planet of the Apes was its sense of continuity. One story does flow into the next to the extent that they didn't even, do really with the live action series. In this way, it kind of resembles more the films, which had a little bit of a narrative going through them. And it's for this reason that only 13 episodes is really a bit sad, because the story kind of ends in the middle. We don't really get to find out how it all works out. One element of continuity that shows up in a lot of episodes is a World War II fighter plane, and I wanted to show an image of the thing. Really awesome, but if you can't really tell here, but those markings right by the pilot are little pictures of humans that they've managed to capture with it. They have a sort of a bomb that's really a net that they cast on people from it. The front of the airplane has this like angry looking ape face. It's really, really pretty awesome. Now, why did it only get 13 episodes? This cartoon is frankly slow. The voice work, other than General Urko, is very measured and calm even in a crisis. It lends a sense of grounded realism to it. But as the show was aimed at kids, slow and measured might not have been the best way to go with this thing. In episode 1, for example, like I kind of mentioned, there is a really long desert crossing sequence. Really long. And has limited music, a little speaking. It's really long. The art imagery is strong, but it's really long. And I was able to skip through a few minutes of it, and it wasn't over yet. Now, that's kind of cool, and you could do that in a movie, for sure. But in a 25-minute cartoon, are kids going to sit through this? They might not. And we're sort of getting towards the end of the Apes phenomenon. So the audience of kids might not be as into this as they otherwise would be. I think that kind of hurts it a bit. Now, ultimately, it is a really smart cartoon. Great visuals, a continuing story. Again, kind of more common to anime at that time than Saturday morning cartoons. But that slow pace, man. It ran opposite Uncle Croc's Block, which starred Charles Nelson Riley, and the Far Out Space Nuts starring Bob Denver and Chuck McCann. And as much as I love all of those dudes, I don't know that on their own they were such stiff competition that the Apes couldn't have done better. I think it was that really slow pacing. But deep down, it feels like a cartoon that maybe should have been on in prime time with maybe a little tweaking, kind of like Johnny Quest, and a Saturday morning thing. So maybe Wildey was trying to recapture that Johnny Quest thing, but doing it in a cartoon that maybe a little too slow paced. Ultimately, it was kind of the last gasp for the Apes franchise after 5 motion pictures and a live action TV series. Star Wars was about to sweep the Apes off the pop culture landscape, at least for a good long while. The cartoon, in my opinion, is definitely worth watching. It is a bit slow. Kind of like 20 minutes of story spread over 25 minutes of cartoon, but the concepts are solid and interesting. They didn't get to necessarily follow them up as much as they could have, but very interesting stuff. Get some good ideas if you're doing your own work from this cartoon. The visuals, like I said, are lovely. Very limited animation, but the design is absolutely top-notch. Has that Doug Wildey touch to it. And I think if you're an Apes fan, definitely should watch it. If you're a Johnny Quest fan, you might want to check it out because you might find it a little reminiscent. but worth watching. It's a good cartoon, but not a great cartoon. And ending the way it does, a little bit frustrating. But I did like it overall. So go check it out and let me know in the comments what you think of this one. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this little video review, please give it a like. Maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That'd be very cool. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Go ape. But go ape the right way. And I will see you again hopefully soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.